Welcome back to our Special Needs and Inclusive Education series. I'm Rosa Kemirembe, your host, and today's topic is the inclusive educator. Whether you're a teacher, a parent, or someone passionate about education, this episode is packed with practical insights to help you support diverse learners in your classroom. At Teaching for Success, we believe every child deserves to learn in a way that works for them. So let's dive into strategies you can start using today to create an inclusive environment for students with visible and invisible special needs, as well as diverse learners. Let's start with a concept called Universal Design for Learning, or UDL. UDL is all about designing lessons that work for everyone, whether a student has a disability or not. Think of it like this. Instead of building a staircase that only some people can climb, you build a ramp that works for everyone. Someone in a wheelchair, a parent with a stroller, or even a student carrying a heavy backpack. Here's a practical example. Imagine you're teaching a lesson on measuring length. Instead of just explaining it verbally, what could you do? You could use real-life objects like sticks, ropes, or even a piece of string to demonstrate how to measure. Have students work in pairs to measure objects around the classroom, like desks or bookshelves. Provide a simple worksheet with pictures and step-by-step instructions for students who need to work at their own pace. This way, students with dyslexia, ADHD, or even those who just learn better through touch or visuals can all access the same lesson in ways that work for them. Now let's bring this closer to home. Picture a typical Ugandan primary school classroom with 50 students. Among them, you might have a student with a hearing impairment, another with autism who struggles with loud noises, and a few who are just struggling to keep up because they learn differently. Here's a strategy you could try. Group work with clear roles. For example, if you're teaching a science lesson on planting seeds, divide the students into small groups and assign roles like the researcher, who's going to read the instructions aloud to their peers or use a visual chart. The planter, this person is going to handle the physical task of planting. The recorder is going to write down observations. This way, every student contributes in a way that suits their strengths. The student with a hearing impairment can be the planter, relying on visual cues. The student with autism can be the recorder, focusing on a quiet, structured task. And the others, they're all learning collaboration and responsibility. Now let's talk about invisible special needs. These are challenges like ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, anxiety, or dyslexia that aren't immediately obvious but can make learning really tough. Here's a practical tip. Break tasks into smaller steps. Chunk them. For instance, if you're assigning an essay, don't just say, write 2 pages about your favorite animal. Instead, break it down. On day 1, your students could choose an animal and list 3 facts about the animal. On day 2, they could write sentences about why they like the animal. And day 3, they can put everything together into a short paragraph. This approach helps students who feel overwhelmed by big tasks. It also benefits everyone else by making the assignment more manageable. Let's end with one more UDL example. Say you're teaching a history lesson about Ugandan independence. Instead of just lecturing, try this. Play a short audio clip of a speech from the time. This would be great for auditory learners. Or you could draw a timeline on the board with key events and pictures, which is perfect for visual learners. Or you could have students act out a scene from the independence movement, which is ideal for kinesthetic learners. This way, students with disabilities like visual impairments or ADHD, as well as those without any impairments, can all engage with the material in a way that makes sense to them. And there you have it. Practical, doable strategies to support diverse learners in your classroom. Remember, inclusion isn't about doing more work. It's about doing things differently so every child can succeed. If you found these tips helpful, share this podcast with a fellow educator. Let's work together to create classrooms where every child feels seen, valued, and supported. Thank you for listening to The Inclusive Educator. I am Rosa Kemirembe, and I'll see you next time with more insights to transform your teaching.